Hey everyone, Volker Butzek again. I'm happy to announce that testing is a thing. You all know that. And Anastasia Nesterova will prove that hit single to be true. And without further ado, Anastasia, the stage is yours.
So, my name is Anastasia. I'm a QA engineer with 5 years experience. I'm relatively a new person in UI5 technologies. I'm working on a project where we use OpenUI5 on our front-end part only 2 years ago. And relatively a year ago, we decided to automate some end-to-end flows using UIVeri5. And today I want to tell you about our experience of test automation using UIVeri5 testing automation framework. So I'm going to outline several main points. And first of all, I would like to tell about our story, our project, and our way from thoughts and ideas to real results. And I will show you our current state with automation. Then I would like to discuss some advantages and disadvantages that we have noticed during the usage. So let's start. And first of all, our story. We have our application interacts with SAP systems and provides a lot of possibilities for testing, migrating, transporting objects, change management, monitoring, and more features. For us, it's not so important for us to spend so much time on it. And one day we decided to automate some end-to-end flows. And we needed to define the goals for this automation. What exactly we wanted to have in these automated tests, which flows we would like to have automated. And after thorough discussion, we defined the following for us. First of all, we decided to implement end-to-end tests for objects creation. Of course, it's quite important for user to be able to create objects. Otherwise, it's just impossible to use our application. Then we wanted to check synchronization with real SAP systems. We want to check our application in real environment, so we use interaction with real SAP systems, not mock services. Also, regarding testing tool features in our application, we wanted to cover the main flow that users use mostly. And this flow includes the following steps. First of all, message recording. It means that we just receive messages from SAP system and then use these messages, recorded messages, for test cases that user can create. Then user runs this created test case, and we wanted to check in our end-to-end tests that all the steps works correctly, and afterwards, where a user receives results, actual results from the remote system, and comparison of expected and actual results is correct. This flow we wanted to cover in our automated tests. Regarding operations tool in our application, we wanted to cover possibilities that we actually monitor messages from remote system, and in case of some failures, we receive alerts in our application and show them to user. And another part of our application is quite big and really powerful, DevOps features, when we provide cases for migrating or transporting objects from one system to another system. And in this flow, we wanted to cover the case when user creates the object configuration for transported object, and then we wanted to check that target object has these configurations that we have configured previously. It is the main cases and the main flows in our application. And once we defined all these goals, we needed to think about the tool that can help us to implement everything that we wanted to do. And we considered several options: Selenium, Cypress, and UIVeri5. And we decided to use UIVeri5 because UIVeri5 is testing automation framework for UI5 based application. And this was the main reason why we decided to use exactly UIVeri5 for our automation. So for now, a year passed, and we have the following state. We implemented all end-to-end flows that we wanted to have in our end-to-end automation tests. Also, we even implemented some API tests, just an addition, a good bonus also for us. And we added all these tests to our CI pipeline. And each night we have these tests run automatically. And in the morning, we receive email with results. So we can just judge if our version is stable or not, and we can investigate if we have some issues or whatever. And another one result that we have more plans for further extensions, and we want to automate more end-to-end flows. We want to extend our coverage using the UIVeri5. On the next slide, you can see our report. We use screenshot report with our custom template. We added here total statistics information and green and red icons to show which spec files are filed and passed. So in this report, you can just switch between spec files and investigate issues if you have some of them, just to find the root cause for these failures. Probably there is an issue with your test, or you have a problem in your application, whatever. It's quite easy. You can investigate everything that you need. So for now, we've covered our story with automation on our project. Let's move on and discuss advantages that we have noticed. It's not a full list. I just want to emphasize and highlight some of them that we really enjoy and like in UIVeri5. And first of all, UIVeri5 interacts with UI5 controls. It's a good benefit. Also, you can automate on different test levels with help of UIVeri5. It's quite easy to configure it, and it's easy to start. So let's dive in each advantage and tell a little bit closer about all of them. First of all, UIVeri5 interacts with UI5 controls. And it's a good thing because when you automate some flow in your automated tests, you can be focused on the flow that you need to automate. You don't think about your configurations. You don't think how to get these controls on UI or something like this. You can be focused on your automation flow, because UIVeri5 provides you possibility to get elements just as you can see them on your screen page. You see the button with some text, and this is it. You just type in your code that you want to get an element by control type sap.m.button with property text something, for example, change version, and it works. If you need to get some dialog, no problem, just you need to get a dialog with some title. And again, it also works. Also, UIVeri5 provides possibility to get elements by bind and pass. It can be useful, especially in our case. For example, we use it when we need to get some elements from tables. Because in the table, it's quite complicated to get some element using ID or some property text. Yes, we just use bind and pass and get this element and do something with it afterwards. Also, you can use IDs to get your elements. You can use jQuery selectors and CSS selectors. So you have quite a lot of options to get elements on your page. Another thing that relates to UI5 controls, that you can get property values for your UI5 controls. In our case, we use it, for example, when we need to check whether checkbox is selected or not. We just get this checkbox on UI and then get its property selected and check this value. And that's it. It's not so difficult. In this example that I just want to show, that we get standard list items on our dialog, and then for each standard list item, we get its property title and compare it with some expected string and do something depending on the result of this comparison. And you can find more cases where you can use it, and it can be just helpful for you to implement your flow. Let's move on. Another advantage that I want to discuss, that you can use UIVeri5 to write your tests for different test levels. You can use it for end-to-end API tests and end-to-end UI tests. So it means that you just can learn only one tool and use it for automation on different test levels. It's a cool feature, and we use it in our application. We have API tests and UI tests, and we have all of them in one project where we just have one configuration for UIVeri5. And you also can use this feature. Another advantage that I want to tell about is that it's quite easy to configure your UIVeri5 project. You have a file where you can provide different configurations. For example, you can configure spec files that you want to include or exclude from the running. You can configure reports that you want to have. Probably you need only screenshot report or JUnit report, or you need both of them. It's not a problem. It's quite easy to configure it. You can configure when you want to have screenshots taken, probably on each action, or only when you click on some buttons, for example, or only when you have some unexpected errors. It's easy, just go and configure it. You can also define timeouts for your test, because sometimes we need to wait for some time, for example, for response from backend. You can configure browsers for running. Screen size, also quite important thing that you can use this configuration, and more features. Just easy, you have one file and you configure everything that you need. Another cool idea with UIVeri5 that if you don't know how to work with it, and if you don't know a lot about UIVeri5, it's quite easy to get your first test generated. There is a recorder, UI5 test recorder for Chrome browser. This an extension, and you only need to install this extension, then go to your application page, start recording, and do your manual test case, as usual you do. Then stop the recording, select UIVeri5 language, and download the archive. In this archive, you will have two files, spec file and configuration file. In this case, everything is generated for you. And only thing that you need to do is run this spec file with UIVeri5, and that's it. And in the beginning, when I started implementing all these tests, I didn't know a lot about UIVeri5, and I used this approach to just generate some code, and afterwards I was able to extend it, add more checks, split for more test cases, for example, and so on and so on. And I still use this recording when I need to automate a new flow, because it's just easier. So for now, we've covered advantages of this usage that we have noticed and we really enjoy. Let's move on, and I want to tell about some disadvantages that we have noticed. It is the thing that we faced, and probably you also will have it if you want to automate with UIVeri5. What I want to discuss, UIVeri5 doesn't support parallel tests running. Sometimes your test can fail with no UI5 on this page error message. And it's a little bit tricky to work with local storage. So let's dive and discuss each of them a little bit closer. First of all, UIVeri5 doesn't support parallel tests running. Of course, it's quite crucial thing. And if you have quite a lot of test cases and you want to extend your test cases and extend your coverage, you will face it definitely, because you just should wait for quite a lot of period of time while all your tests finish. For now, it's planned to be implemented, and I believe that it will be done soon, and we will use this feature. Because for now, we have too many test cases, and we can run only smoke tests on regular basis. And if we need to check some parts of our application, we run more tests. And that's it, because for now, we have quite a lot of them. And it's quite crucial in our case, because we can't run all our coverage on daily basis, for example, on regular basis. Another disadvantage that we faced, probably it's even not a disadvantage, this is a problem that we faced. There was a period of time when we received emails with quite strange results. 0 tests were passed, just 0 of them. And when we investigated these reports, we saw only one error. Wait for UI5, no UI5 on this page. And that's it. And it happened from time to time for our case. I think relatively once a month or something like this. And we just even didn't know what to do with it and how we tried to Google for solution. We tried to find something and resolve it somehow, but it happened. But it seems we found the solution for this issue when we edited the configuration, browser's capabilities in our configuration file. It stopped occurring for us. At least we haven't had it for 2 months. It's quite a long period of time. And for now, probably this is a solution. If you have this issue, just try it and see what happened. Another disadvantage that I want to tell you about, that if you need to work with local storage, it's a little bit tricky, because the standard notation, local storage.getItem, just doesn't work. And you should write more lines of code to get this item from your local storage. For example, in our application, we store last used object ID in local storage. And in my end-to-end flow, I want to get this value and compare it with my expected result, of course. And it's just the idea that we faced, and I wanted to show that it's a little bit tricky, but it's not a big problem. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Let me just recall key points again. In the beginning, I have talked about our project, our story of this automation. Then we've discussed advantages and disadvantages that we have noticed and faced during this automation. In conclusion, I want to say that I consider UIVeri5 as quite a powerful tool, and you can use it for your UI5 applications, because it provides quite a lot of benefits and features, and they're really useful. It has some disadvantages, but any tool has them. It's not something extraordinary. So I think that you can start your automation with UIVeri5, and you will enjoy this experience really, as we do. On the next slide, I just added some useful links. If you only start with UIVeri5, just dive in them and read more about it. They're really useful. So this is it. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Hello. Now you all know testing is a thing. And here's the proof in Anastasia's presentation. There were actually a couple of questions. The very first one you even showed, I think, in one of the slides, but I'll still relay it to you. It says, how did you access the UI5 controls at test time? Did you use an official API or did you implement your own wrappers?
We didn't implement our wrappers. We just used official and everything that provided by UIVeri5. It's quite easy. There are a lot of options to do it. You can go to the official documentation and read all these ways. It's really easy to do.
Then the next one would be for the entire test scope. You've beautifully shown the testing pyramid and also said that a couple of API and regular end-to-end tests are possible with UIVeri5. Now the question here arose is, what about starting from the launch pad? Did you ever have or solve the challenge of starting the Launchpad first, then selecting the application and so on and so forth?
Oh, I haven't had this experience. So for now, I'm just not ready to say anything about it.
That's very wise. Not answering if you don't know it.
I just don't know. I think that it's a stupid idea to tell something, at least. I haven't worked with it.
Then you showed in the very beginning, I think, a screenshot of the report of your UIVeri5 tests.
Yes.
The question is this a custom reporter that you implemented, or did you use one of the standard reporters that come with UIVeri5?
Oh, okay. In our case, we use template that provided by UIVeri5 for screenshot reports. We just added there some elements that we needed. We wanted to view total statistics and see which spec files are failed and successful. And we just a little bit changed this report. But again, we used template provided by UIVeri5. Yeah.
And last but not least, there's a statistic that came out of the polls that does not only make me sad, but probably Maxime as well from UIVeri5 and you too, about the knowing about UIVeri5. So there was the majority of people who answered the question either didn't know about UIVeri5 or haven't used it. So here's your opportunity, Anastasia, to get the message out. Why should they start using UIVeri5 immediately?
Regarding this, I think that UIVeri5 provides a lot of possibilities, and really you can interact with UI5 controls easier using UIVeri5. If you're talking about Selenium or Cypress, for example, we should use IDs mostly or jQuery selectors. But when you use UIVeri5, you can just type what you see on your screen. If you see the button with some text, you can just even don't check its button ID or binding path or whatever. You can just type that you need control type scp.m.button with property text something, and that's it. And I think that it makes life easier, really, because when I automate the flow, I want to be focused on this flow for this automation, not think about these IDs and how to get them, where to find them, or something like this. And I just see everything on my screen and implement what I need. And I think it's a good benefit with using UIVeri5.
Yeah, UIVeri5 provides an easy entry into locating UI5 controls for sure. And there's 1 minute left, and there's another question that just came in. And so please take it briefly, Anastasia. Did you try other frameworks like Cypress, or straight away chose UIVeri5?
Okay, we tried exactly Cypress, and we even implemented some flows using Cypress. And I think that they were quite dummy, and we didn't have a lot of problems with this implementation, but we needed to use IDs always when we needed to get something on the page. And I think that for now, we have quite a lot of cases. And I think that if we continued working with with Cypress, it could be too difficult for us and too tricky to implement everything that we have right now, because we needed to provide IDs, or we needed to get these elements using, for example, jQuery selectors. But it's a little bit tricky. You need to check that your selector is correct, and you should do it always when you need to get some new element and do something with it. So regarding this thing, we used Cypress, but we decided to use UIVeri5 mainly because UIVeri5 interacts with UI5 controls and provides a lot of benefits and features with this interaction. And it was the main reason why we decided to use UIVeri5 in our case.
Excellent, thanks. There's other questions still coming in. I'd like to ask you to take them probably from the chat, Anastasia, because that's essentially a wrap. Frederick is already on his heels for closing up the thing. One last thing I want to get out, testing is not only a thing, but I also hope to see all of you finally on site in 2022. Bye.